Hello, and welcome to the Grow Better Together podcast. If you're going to go through it, grow through it. My name is Meredith, and I'm here with my handsome husband, Rob.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about
Expectations. Yes.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a specific way in which we wanted to view the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to introduce that kind of concept?
Yeah, so something that has always, I guess, we talk about always knowing yourself and knowing your triggers and knowing what bothers you and, what'll set you off. And one of mine that I learned over time was when people would get upset with me for something I didn't do.
Yes.
And something you did do. So realizing then you go through life feeling like you're always going to do something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's anxiety provoking. So I remember years ago when I started to realize that this was like a thing that some people do, family, friends, you name it. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and he says, one thing, like marriage advice, right?
Yeah.
When I was young, you can either be mad at what someone did or what someone didn't do. But if you're going to be upset with what someone didn't do, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And it was kind of foreign to me because I remember getting scolded or yelled at or talked poorly towards because you either do and or don't do something. And it was very puzzling.
Yeah.
Because why are people like this? So realizing that and having that in the back of my head as, okay, that's probably makes sense to not do that and to really try to not be that way in relationships.
Yeah.
To catch yourself, and that's very, very hard for a lot of people, to call yourself out on your crap.
Yes. Yeah. If you're getting mad at somebody,
yeah.
And like you said, like if you're mad at somebody for something they didn't do, but the underlying thing here is that they didn't know they were supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So if they didn't do it, but they didn't know that they were supposed to do it, well then it's definitely not fair. You can't get mad at them because they're like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So it's the unspoken expectations, and that really gets people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Because you do feel let down by somebody.
Yeah.
You might get angry, but if they had no clue they were supposed to do it, how were they supposed to do it?
And it ties directly back into the love languages that we talked about last podcast because, I know for one, some people expect gifts, and I could care less.
Yeah, it's not our love
about
language.
Gifts. No.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get a nice card, and I often prefer a nice card than something I may or may not want, and may get rid of, may collect dust. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would be very hurtful if they didn't get a gift and a card, and they're perfect. And it's, it's like, oh my God. But, I wouldn't think that because that's not what I think. So, it all boils down to so much of the time communication.
Absolutely, yes. And then the importance of love languages, which is why that was one of our first podcasts, because it's so important. It might be in a relationship, like partners, normal to talk about love languages. Yeah. But do we talk about that to our parents? Do we talk about that to our kids? Do we talk about that to our best friends? Often not.
Never.
Yeah, so it's hard to, if you have a relationship.
What happened to my parents,
Yeah, so that would be something where if somebody does have a challenging, like if they're getting yelled at from a parent about something they didn't do, is then, okay, identifying what's their love language, maybe it's related to that. So if their love language is gifts, and you're not giving gifts, but without knowing love languages, you never know that was something they wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess, something that could start is to think, if this is resonating and you're saying, oh my gosh, that happens to me all the time, I think that is what's happening. Because you hear so many people say, oh, I can't win.
Yeah,
that's
all the time.
Phrase, everybody uses it for, everything. And you almost kind of think about that and wonder, well, why? Why do they feel like they can't win? What's happening? And I often wonder if they try to have those conversations. Right?
Usually not.
Yeah, probably not.
It's
those
usually,
conversations are hard.
They are very hard. Yeah, it's, I have done this, why aren't you pleased with that? And the other person's thinking, I don't even care that you did that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not pleased. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, it was always hard for me because it almost puts you in a state of anxiety.
Oh, yes.
Because then you're always wondering, should I be doing something right now? Should I not be doing this? Should I go do this? Should I not go do that? And, having that growing up at times, then you carry it into a relationship and you don't realize it's like if you've been here and all of a sudden your relationship is here, like you don't even notice.
Yeah, there's no difference. You
that
never
it's
think it's different. You never think it's wrong. Yeah.
And that was really hard. So, what are like some examples of some things that people get mad at or frustrated when someone doesn't do something?
Yeah, I think a lot of I'm a personal trainer, so I do talk with clients quite a bit over the years. I've helped over 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And usually what I'll hear about is if it's a couple, it's chores not being done. Like, oh, you didn't cut the grass, or oh, you didn't do the dishes, or oh, you didn't do the laundry. And the other person says, yeah, but I did do X, Y, and Z of other things. So they'll get yelled at, so to speak, about what they didn't do, but they feel unseen by the partner in what they did do.
Yeah.
So then they get defensive rather than rather than seeking understanding, everybody just argues for their point of view.
Oh, yeah. Oh. What?
Yeah, really? People
All the
do
time.
that?
Yeah, all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just, it is. And I wish the biggest takeaway that if anybody listening to this podcast today would just say, take a look at yourself, reflect, and say, do I do this? Am I doing this to my friends? Am I doing this to my partner? Am I doing this to, someone at work? I mean, this doesn't just, grow better together, but grow better together in your friendships. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship,
Absolutely.
A romantic relationship.
Yeah.
But it's, I know personally that it took a lot of time to be aware of that and to make sure I always hear my dad's voice in the back of my head, and then it just became ingrained. It wouldn't be fair to be mad, for not doing something. Okay, at least pick a side.
Yeah.
Right? You can be upset then when someone does do something, but then also don't come out like lashing at the other person.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And I think a lot of listeners will recognize as well that we can have the outward expression of anger, but we can also have internal resentment. So maybe we're not yelling at the person because we're like, if we say don't be mad at them, they're like, well, I don't ever yell at somebody, or I've never yelled at them. Yeah, but you might internally be angry and mad.
That's true.
You're frustrated, and then you don't verbalize that, so therefore your response with your frustration is to not talk. That person doesn't understand why you're not talking. So sometimes there's actually benefit in outwardly speaking your anger, because then people are aware that you're angry and you can solve it. But a lot of people, and I'm assuming that most of the people listening to this podcast are going to be the type where I'll hold that in. Like, oh, I'll have some resentment, I'll have some anger, but it's okay this time. And then it just builds and builds and builds.
Yeah. Yes. Or when you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you hear cabinets slamming and doors slamming and shit being thrown around, and you're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, what did I do?
Yeah. But the worst part is what you just said. Right? No, we're internalizing. We're like, oh my God, what did I do?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because someone else is pissed and walking around and stomping their feet and slamming doors. For us to think, what did we do?
That's our personality types. It's like, what did I do wrong? Whereas other personality types are like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, why are you mad?
Yeah, right. So then that is just a whole other, can of worms there, because then it's like that. Then you're paranoid, and then you're uncomfortable, and I remember looking back, from relationships from like 18 to like 24, one of the things I said the most probably was, what did I do wrong?
Oh, yeah.
What did I do? Or, like, are you mad at me? Like, it was just this, and I hate to say it, a lot of it came from, how I grew up. And it just carried over. And I don't remember what flipped the switch when I stopped doing that, but it was, I'll have to, like, think back and like actually go back to that part of my brain that remembers it for like a next time. But that's so unhealthy. And so I think also if I said, maybe if you're the person and you're realizing you're doing this, but if you're on the receiving end of it, or you catch yourself a lot of times saying, what did I do? What did I do wrong? Or saying, are you mad at me? Did I do something? Like, I personally would like for the person to take themselves out of it and not say, what did I do? But rather, hey, you're clearly upset about something. What's going on? What's wrong? Do not go, like, saying what did I do, I feel like that just it tells the other person, you can do this.
Well,
because this is how you'll get to me, and I'll come at you, and I'll immediately come from, like, the, inferior position. Oh, God, what did I do? Did it upset you? Like, oh, for the love of God. Like, ugh. I hate that way of being. But I had, I guess, a little too much experience with it. But
that phrase, though, like, what did I do? Another way of wording that is, like, what did I do? If you finish that statement, is what did I do wrong? Meaning, I am at fault.
Right.
How can I fix this? And it's not you. Sometimes it literally isn't you.
Yeah.
And that's hard to believe, that that it can be the other person's problem. And then, like you said, it's also, a lot of people are non-confrontational. So if the other person is angry, it sounds great to say, okay, hey, I can see you're upset. What are you upset about? It's really hard to do that in the moment. So sometimes you almost have to come back to that topic at maybe another time. If that person's really angry, and they tend to be an angry person, you might need to wait till the next day, to say, hey, I wanted to talk about love languages today. And you don't even have to necessarily say, I want to do this because we were angry yesterday. But you definitely need to seek out communication, seek out clarity. And whether it's in that moment, if the person is able to do that, or you might have to do it actually the next day. Yeah.
Sometimes it's best to just walk away and let it simmer, and then just come back, revisit it.
Yeah, because I know they say, like, a lot of times in relationships that opposites attract. And I forget the phrase, like, turtles marry whatever the heck the other thing is. But they have...
I feel like rabbits.
Something like
tortoise in the hair.
Turtle is like if there's conflict, you hide away.
Oh.
So that's like the turtle.
Yeah.
And then I forget what the other one was because I was a turtle, so I just said, okay, that's me.
So you didn't pay attention to the other one.
No, but the other one is whenever there's conflict, they lash out. Like they express it, they go for it, So if you are a turtle in the relationship, and the other one is an aggressive one, to try in that moment say, hey, I can see you're upset right now, let's talk about this. They'd be like, what the hell do we have to talk about? I already told you, da, da, da. You're like, you never told me anything. So it can be very challenging in those moments, especially because I'm non-confrontational by nature. So when somebody is mad, I tend to try not to rock the boat. I'll tend to try to just get quiet. I immediately go to what I think I can do for them that'll make them happy, which is trauma. That's not good all the time. But that's usually my response. Is they're upset. Let me, quiet down. Bring everything down a level. Let me see if I can search out something that might help them. But there then would still be the need to communicate that at another time. Yeah. Have you ever had to communicate after the fact to somebody about they were mad and you wanted to touch base on that the next day?
Oof. I feel like most of the times that happen, I'm just like, I'm gonna wait, and I wait years.
I wait until the next time they get mad, and we're like, I'll wait. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. And then 3 weeks later, they get mad again.
It literally, I had to be a recluse and say I'm gonna try not to address it because I, honest to God, thought it was me for so long. It took it took counseling to get me to realize, okay, I'm not living my life every day doing something wrong because I was never doing the wrong things, just existing, and I was always getting snapped at, and I could not figure it out. And I'm like, this is not me. It's a point where it's not me, and that the person doesn't have the same values I do.
Not the same perceptions.
Values are different. The perceptions are different. The love languages are different. And I was like, oh my God, this is get me out of here, because it was so hard.
Yeah.
But talking after the fact, it was a lot easier as I became an adult to do that. So it went through a lot of the reading and the reflecting and, therapy sessions or whatever you call it, and practicing. And it took a long time to be able to then say, hey, this really bothered me, and this is why. Or even if I did something, I'm like, hey, I know I was really quiet. I'm working on figuring out like how to say something. So either way, so I have had to do it, but I internalize and think about stuff for a very long time before I usually come out. And I don't like talking about things in the heat of the moment because it usually never goes well.
Almost never, no.
So I always wait. But I'm very, very thankful that I'm trying to think about the last time I've had to do that, and it's been
a while,
a very, very long time.
Yeah, because you've shared some stories of your past, and they will be things that, from hearing from the story, hearing from like an outside perspective, I can see exactly why you would have been doing what you were doing, and it makes total sense. But the other person was looking at it from a completely different perspective, and since they may have not been good at verbalizing their expectations, or verbalizing what their kind of goals of that moment are, like what they were aiming towards, it really does depend on the communication ability of the other person as well. And that's very difficult because we might want to improve our communication, but they might not.
And that's really hard. That's very, very tough to be in a relationship when you're so in such different places. And a lot of times, a lot of people feel like, I'm just going to stay in this relationship. This is the best I'm going to get. I'm already X years old. We're already living together. We already know. Like, just staying because it's easy. And I promise it is not easy.
No.
And
you still have the rest of your life to live. Why are you going to live it unhappy?
Yeah, but there's so many. Gosh, I feel like there's hundreds of books, but I feel like you could write a book on saying, we're not saying jump ship as soon as it gets hard. No. We're not saying stay in something. We're not saying continue and work at it if you've already been working at it for 3 years and you're making yourself sick over it. Like there's just need to put a disclaimer out there. We're not like advocating just jump if things are hard. We're not advocating stay if things are hard. At the end of the day, everyone's going to do what's best. But for me personally, I have to know I tried everything I could before I jump ship or before we dissolve things, whatever it is. Unless it's emotionally abusive, then I'm out the door, as soon as I can be. But, it's just, I don't know.
I think, like in regards to individual cases, we don't know your individual cases per listener, but the willingness to go to counseling, to get an outside perspective, but an educated outside perspective. And then also the willingness to look at the options you don't want to look at. To at least consider the pros and cons. So maybe you're afraid to leave. Well, at least weigh the pros and cons. Maybe you're, wondering if you should stay. At least weigh the pros and cons. So if you're open perspective to all possibilities, and you go seek somebody with more kind of education in that area, and they can then know your individual story. So what we're doing is maybe raising awareness, and then trying to get you to coax out, if you think this is an issue, go get counseling, and be open to all possibilities. So.
Yeah, and for one thing that was always hard for me is I didn't know how to talk to someone about things, and I wish I did younger, but just to say, hey, there's a few things I'd really like to talk about. How would you like to do that? Like, where do you want to, are you open to doing that now? Right? Maybe they're totally not in the mindset. Are you open to doing that now? Can we, set a few, like, guidelines or, like, no one's going to raise their voice. We're not going to just set some, like, expectations so that you can feel like you can have the conversation.
Absolutely.
Have it be open and fair.
Yeah. Now, let's say, like, for example, between you and I. Say there was something you wanted to bring to my attention. What would be a method in which you would go about doing it?
I don't remember.
I don't think we've had a specific case. I'm just trying to say
never...
how, like, you and I are really open to each other.
Yeah. We've done so much freaking work on ourselves before we found each other, which it makes it so nice. Yes. But one thing I think maybe so that we don't get to a place is because I say, hey, this is how I feel, or this didn't bother me, but it probably will in like 4 months. Like I always tell you, like, if I do talk about something or bring something up, I'm bringing it up before I like see red. Like long before that.
Yeah,
and
we bring it up as soon as it comes up, and then I think one of the best things that you do is you give timelines to things, or you give more context. Yeah. And I think that's helpful for any listener to think of when they talk to somebody.
Well, that's something that we've talked about. So maybe that's an example that we could give where it was like house projects, right? So when I moved in and there were things that we wanted to get done and we made a list, and perfect example, where it's like, okay, task number 4 is really my highest priority, and you would do I don't even know, I'm just making it up, but I know as a general instance, you were doing like task 1, 2, 3, and I'm like,
yeah, mine was
really 1,
2, 3, and then how much time did I have right now?
Yeah.
So if I didn't have time for 1 and I had 15 minutes, what of the list takes 15 minutes, and what's the highest number on that list that takes 15 minutes? So I was very literal about that list.
But it was like hey, I would really like this done because it's a horrible inconvenience to not have this done yet. Yeah. But it came to a talk, like we talked about it. Yeah. And then we said, okay, well, how do we communicate what's most important to me? And then we write it on the whiteboard for like little house tasks, and then it's top to bottom, like highest priority to lowest priority, and then like basically working in the pecking order based on time was fine.
And then I learned to also just vocalize to you, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something in the next 15 minutes.
You have, and
what would you like done in the 15
minutes? You have done that, and that's been awesome.
And that's something I wasn't used to doing by being by myself for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Is if I was going to go do something, I'll just go do it.
Right.
And it was on the list, so of course I just do it on the list. And then I had to realize, okay, that might be on the list, but maybe priorities changed. Maybe something's more important today, and we haven't had time to update the list. So it's easier for me now. It's actually much smarter and easier to just go, hey, I have 30 minutes. What would you like me to work on? Yeah. And yes, it's on the list, and you might just say, oh, yeah, top of the list, good. Or you might say, hey, you know what, today actually I need number 3 on the list. That's going to be the most helpful. And just giving that communication.
Yeah. And that is where at least our skill set made that so it was like seamless. But I could see that going so sideways for so many households. I really could. And it's not like I had this long list that Rob just goes and works on.
Oh no, yeah, no. It was mostly when we started to live together.
Yeah,
you're blending together two people's lives. There's going to be there are going to be things that I would have needed just as much as you needed. So it was definitely both giving and taking.
It's like we really needed to move the bed, and there's no way on God's green earth that I could do that by myself. His bed, ridiculous. It's like Calvin and King. Like there's all these extra parts built into it. It is like twice as heavy as when you bought it. Like I can't do that. That's on the list, right? I really need your help to please move the bed because otherwise I'm going to be like getting out of it like in the wall. Like it's been impossible. Yeah. So like things like that. But that's a great example. Yeah. And you have once we realize that there's like a priority to things for me because I'm all about functionality.
Yes.
Right? My acts of service is, and that's the other thing. If my love language is acts of service and all the like little chores and little tasky things is an act of love for me. Yes. Because I was an independent woman for a very long time, and I have a toolbox, and I used a drill, and I did all the things, but I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to do that right now.
That's what I'm for.
I don't need to do that right now.
I like doing it.
Yeah, so I was like, please, could you please hang the thing in the bedroom? I just, So it's an act of service because it was my love language, because I really didn't want to do it, so him doing it made me feel so loved.
Yeah,
because he took the burden off of me.
Yes, and I will say for guys out there, and this might not be only for guys, but I know guys do this, do not pick the thing on the list that you can do the quickest and easiest. So just because you did something doesn't mean that it counts. Well, it has to be done in like what they want. It has to be done the most important thing. Because I know a lot of guys, they'll say like, "Oh, I just did that. It was 5 minutes. Then I went and talked to my buddies or went and did this." It's like, you jackass! You should have done the thing that took 30 minutes that you didn't want to do. Like if you had the time for that one, that's the one you should have done. So you don't look for the shortcuts. You don't shortcut love. If I want to show love to you, and I want to do an act of service because that's what means most to you, I want to do the one that means the most, not the fastest, easiest, whatever I can get done today and still go about my business.
Good man.
Yeah, that's not love. Yeah, no, I know you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to be with you because you
I'm
are.
very lucky.
Just talking to you makes me realize that it's so rare, and I would not wish my path on anybody.
No, I know
But
I know most of your path, and I would not do it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm worth it.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, that's a great example. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we did in talking. We found one that made a lot of sense. But I think just reflect on yourself, reflect on the relationship, reflect on your friendships. Find a way that how do they like having tougher conversations? When is the best time? So you really need to know yourself. You need to know them. Figure it out, talk it out,
And
strategize, be open.
Yes.
Right? Be open and look at yourself. That's very hard for a lot of people.
Because I know some people, they'll say, well, hey, do you want to talk about this right now? And the person will go, oh, can I get like 10 minutes? Well, I don't know. I really want to talk about it right now. It's like, well, why would you ask them? If you ask them when they want to do it, and then you just don't listen.
That's a whole other podcast.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah. But it is being open to their communication. Some people, once they know that you want to say something, it's like, no, tell me now. Like, it'll burn a hole in them,
Yeah.
So you have to be ready to participate in an equal way.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you have to concede all to them, but you do have to meet in the middle.
Yeah. And then to say, hey, can we talk?
Yeah, it's like, what? About what?
Be careful how you approach the topic. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's something that the main thing about this with expectations is you can't get mad at what people don't do if they didn't know they were supposed to do it.
Right.
So if there's something that you feel resentment building up, or if you actually do lash out in anger, and you realize, holy crap, I never even voiced this, I never set expectations, I never set standards or boundaries, like I didn't tell them anything about this, then it's not fair. You need to apologize to them, and you need to then be vocal about what your standards and expectations are.
Right. Yeah, very good point. Yep.
Awesome.
So that's, I think we hit all the points that we wanted.
I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah.
Solved all the problems.
Yeah, yep,
Not at
we're
all.
done. Yeah, we're done. We solved it all. So there you go.
Yeah. So I think, Summer, just communication. We're probably going to sound like a broken record, but communication. It's all about communication.
Yeah, and it's going to come back to that in a lot of our podcasts because that is overwhelmingly one of the main reasons why people have trouble with other people in whatever
It's
aspect.
so hard to watch, isn't it?
It's just communication.
It's
It's
just
like
hard to
lack
watch.
of communication or improper communication. Yeah.
Well, you want to sign us off?
Oh, okay. You got it. Okay. Well, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. It really does help. Our goal really is to help people. So the more people that are aware of the podcast, the more people we can then help.
Yes.
So if you do share it, if you do like it, if you do anything of that, we appreciate it because it's going to help us help more people. Awesome. Okay, and then on social media, you can find us on Instagram at
Grow Through Blog.
Yes, Grow Through Blog. Cool. And then we also have our email, which is growbettertogetherpodcast@gmail.com. So really long, but very descriptive.
Not long at all.
Yeah, Grow Better Together Podcast. Yes. So if you have any questions, suggestions, if you want to chime in with any topics you might like to hear, we're here to help. So if there's anything that you want, please let us know. Awesome. Okay. Well, and remember, if you're going to go through it,
Grow through it.
Yep. Turn your struggles into strengths. Yes.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for watching.